Paul and Luke are on an Alexandrian grain ship. They've left Knidos, they've come under the southern part of Crete, the island of Crete, and now they're at Fairhaven. We're sitting just above the ancient harbor of Fairhaven, and there's a church commemorating that event behind us. The account reads in Acts chapter 27 of what transpires here at Fairhaven. Passing it with difficulty, we came to a place called Fairhaven near the city of Lacis. Now, when much time had been spent and sailing was now dangerous because the fast was already over, Paul advised them, saying, "Men, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster and much loss, not only of the cargo and the ship, but also of our lives." Nevertheless, the centurion was more persuaded by the helmsman and the owner of the ship than by the things spoken of by Paul. And because the harbor was not suitable to winter in, the majority advised to set sail from there also, if by any means they could reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete, opening toward the southwest and northwest, and winter there. Two things about this passage. First, Phoenix is only a few kilometers to the west of us. But he says, first of all, the fast has passed. The fast is the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which usually falls the end of September, beginning of October. So now, in this time, it is late into October, and the sea lanes are about to close for the winter. Because when the winter windstorms come in, it is dangerous to be out in the Mediterranean. So they stop sailing from November to March or so. But then he says of the harbor here, and because the harbor was not suitable to winter in. What an Alexandrian grain ship would need would be a granary nearby where they could offload their grain for the winter so that the grain does not mildew or rot. And the grain, if it got wet, would expand in the ship and it would rip the ship apart. And so it was not suitable to harbor because there was no place to offload the grain. Probably there was something to that effect in Phoenix. Now this also tells us a hint as to where the shipwreck of Paul was on Malta. It tells us for sure where it wasn't. It wasn't on the eastern end of the island, because a sea captain going to Rome, if he had to winter in Malta, he would go past the eastern end of the island and veer to the left into the Grand Harbor. In the Grand Harbor, there was an ancient granary that was discovered in the 19th century or earlier, where the sea captain would dock, offload the grain for the winter, and then put it back on in the spring and sail off. Remember, Paul and Luke are on an Alexandrian grain ship called the Twin Brothers, or the Two Brothers, on their way to Rome. So the shipwreck of Paul could not have been on the eastern end of the island, because any sea captain worth his salt would have recognized the eastern end of the island. And the Bible makes it explicitly clear the sea captain did not recognize where they were. So the shipwreck of Paul took place somewhere on the north end of the island in the St. Paul's Bay area. The St. Paul's Bay area could include Salina Bay, St. Paul's Bay, and Maliha Bay.